Hi Marwa, good to see you. Hi Claudia. Good evening everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today we're going to talk about dealing with loss. Hi Sheikh, good to see you. And it's a subject that is really dear to my heart. And today I go on live with a heavy heart because one of my dearest cousins is in hospital, and I think he's at the final stages of his life, of his journey. So maybe this topic came at an opportune time, and we're specifically talking about dealing with death as a loss. But I hope that you can find some inspiration in using the material from today in dealing with any major emotional loss that you have suffered. Please don't be afraid to ask questions. Use the sticker below so I can see your questions. Sometimes I don't because of the way Instagram is set up. And the greatest loss really is that of loss of people, loss of loved ones in our life. And this is why I think dealing with loss is a very important subject to unboxing, learning how do we deal not only with joy, but with sadness and grief in our life. And I hope that you will remember we're all destined to the same thing. Nobody's gonna live forever. And I think the greatest lesson of death is understanding that how fragile life is. So let's make the best of our lives. Let's fill it with joy. Let's connect very deeply with the people we care about and give some effort and time to connect with loved ones, so when they reach their final stage of the journey, we don't feel any regrets about not having said how much we love them, how much they meant to us, and what impact their life has had for them to be in our lives and what we have learned from it. So the first thing that probably many of you know, that I've suffered a lot of losses in the last few years. I come from a very big family and we are quite close-knit, and many of us are friends with each other. So the loss was devastating. I had 4 aunts and an uncle pass away within a span of like 6 months. And then another aunt passed away, and then my own mom passed away, and my husband passed away, and then few cousins as well passed away, all in the last few years. And it's been very, very difficult to cope with. But for me personally, the losses that has impacted my life most were the departing of my late husband, and within 8 months or so of him, my mother passed away. And I found it very, very difficult to deal with, to grieve them, to deal with the loss. And I'm just trying to share with you what I went through in the hope that it would inspire you not to be afraid to face it, to face the loss, to grieve, but more importantly, to build your life also, to rebuild your life and to keep going. So please look up at material that I've done, previous coffee breaks, my tips of how you move on. Tonight is a very short coffee break, so I'm really trying to see how can I help you best, that you benefit from this and you focus more on life, because I think the pulse of life is to live knowing that we're all gonna leave. The planet in millions of years is not gonna be here. So the whole process of life and living is very precious, and this is why I'm so passionate and determined to unbox myself, but also to help you, my viewers, my clients, to unbox as much as you can by providing you with a new perspective and help, tips on how to deal with grieving. So how do you deal with grieving? I think it's very important that we know that it's quite different and it's individual to everyone. To each one of us will be different. What you grieve will be different. How you grieve would be different. For me, what has really helped me is a very old friend and a client of mine, Megan Patel, and I saved her message. She sent me a message saying, Sahar, you grieve any way you want to. You do whatever you want to. Don't let anyone tell you how you grieve. And I don't know if you've seen my recent interview with Maria Vitoratos. You will find it on YouTube. And it's part of her platform that is called Strong. Maria has lost her daughter also last year. And the purpose of Strong was to share our journeys of losses and how we have coped. But I remember the first thing that people told me when my father passed away is, you have to be strong now for your mother. And I didn't understand what that meant. I understood it as, you have to suppress your grief, get your grieving, get your act together, and just be strong for others. And for many years, it went on like that. And because of that, I couldn't grieve my own father. It took me 2 years, literally. And after 2 years, I completely cracked down. I cried, I dealt with the grieving, but I kept it in for 2 years. So please don't do that. Because of many incidents that have happened in my life, my health was affected, and I've developed high blood pressure, and I've developed diabetes literally overnight when my beloved brother passed away. Again, I had to be strong for his wife, for his daughters. They were quite young, to look after them, to support them in any way I can. And I remember I got a headache, and I never ever get headaches. And I just went in, to check with the doctor, and he said, right now you get blood pressure tablets and you take them. And now that my mother recently and my husband have passed away, my life has completely changed. And I struggled with understanding what it is that I was grieving and why was I sad. And I think if you ask yourself, what has changed? First of all, grieve, get it out of the way. Don't indulge, really grieve well, but not to take yourself to the extreme that you and your life and your well-being becomes beyond repair. But do grieve, do let it out. Don't let other people influence you. Many people have told me you're grieving too quickly. Some people told me, oh, you're grieving too slowly. Few people, but mostly my friends and family were extremely supportive. And that's what I would like you to know, that there is no proper way of grieving. But don't do it to an extreme where you can't come back and regroup yourself and rebuild your life. Does that make sense, guys? I don't want you to be sad. It's part of life. So give me thumbs up or hearts if you're listening to this and if you understand what we're talking about. So do ask yourself, what has changed in your life? This is how I have dealt with it. Why am I so sad? What is it that I was grieving? What is it? What is that void that the departure of my mom recently and my husband have affected my life? How has it affected my life? What am I missing? And I will share with you in a moment what it is that I was missing. The other question that you need to ask yourself is, how can I support myself? It's very important that we have support so that we don't break down completely. And sometimes, please be open, that support could come from people whom you don't expect. It could be from friends, it could be from neighbors, it could be from even acquaintances. So don't be upset if you don't get the support that you require from people around you, like from your immediate circle or from close family, because everybody has their circumstances and you don't know what's happening in their life. And although your drama and your trauma is very big for you, it might not be for them. They've got other things to get along with. So don't take anything personally, because we are so vulnerable when we are grieving. We are likely to blow things out of proportion. And I remember one thing that my dear mother always said. She said, everything in life starts small and grows, except for death. It starts very big and then it grows small. And I think after all these experiences of losing my relatives, my family, I finally understood what she meant, because when it happens, the change is so sudden that you can't think clearly. You take it personally, because all of these heartstrings that you have attached to other people, you don't know what to do with that love. You don't know, how do you reorient yourself? What do you do with these emotions? How do you love them? Loving them doesn't stop after they've gone. So what do you do with all of that love? How do you channel it? And that's why it's important to kind of contemplate between you and you. It's very good if you can share with a friend, but I kind of like to deal with stuff myself. And I find that sometimes people don't give you the kind of advice or support that you expect, because they're not touched by it personally. So the advice seems to be generic. Don't let it get you down. It's fine, any support is good, but there's nothing wrong with you having conversations with yourself. I don't know, do you talk to yourself? I do all the time. And if we start asking questions, we can really encapsulate or identify what it is that we have lost, so that we can begin to understand how do we build our life again. So it may sound odd or strange, but really when you can, contemplate and ask, what is it that you're missing? What support can you have? And also, you need, as I said, you need to talk to yourself. But finally, the golden question is, how is their absence a present? I personally believe consciousness is an energy that cannot be destroyed. And it is mentioned, if you're a Muslim, in the Quran, that the soul goes back to the Creator. So I think it's not destroyed. And this is what I tell myself, that maybe they are here, maybe they are around us. We can't see them, we can't hear them. I chose to adopt that view because it helps me to feel better. So I talk to them a lot. I don't know why I'm sweating. It's hot, but maybe the subject matter is. I talk to them. I have their pictures around. Actually, I want to show you something. This is how I have coped. So I keep all their pictures in front of me so I can see them all the time. I had them, this is pictures of all my family. I had them on my coffee table. I moved them to the dining table because we started gathering there with my cousin and my niece. And I like to look at them, and I chose the pictures that I love. I have pictures of my parents and my brother, right by the entrance. So I say good morning to them. I say good night to them. When my husband passed away, my friends prepared these boards for me out of our favorite pictures together. And I've kept these boards and I put them behind my bedroom door so that when I get up in the morning, I go in, I go out, I say hello. And I remember the best moments in my life were those with my mother, with my family, with my husband. And I want to be reminded of the happy times, not only the sad times. A friend of mine told me that he understands my pain, and he said, this is the price of love. And it took me a few days to kind of think about that. And I thought, he's absolutely right. At least I had that love, I had that connection, whether it was with my brother, my mother, my father, my husband. And I count myself as very, very fortunate to have had that deep connection. So I kept a few more pictures that we've had from the funeral. I mean, my friends were super amazing. They've had all of this arranged at the funeral. So when I open my inside cupboard, I have it, I see him, I see my husband, I talk to him. And this is the eyeliner, the kuhl thing of my mom that I've kept all these years. And I have her picture there. So on the dressing table in the morning, I say hello. And next to her is a picture of my husband, one of my favorite pictures of him. So I can see him. And then this is one of the favorite pictures of my mom. This is on a plate that they got done, my dad and her, when they were on their trip to Japan. So that reminds me or brings back a lot of memories. So I keep that. I even keep my parents' wedding picture because there is so much love encapsulated there. And I look at these pictures all the time. Some people don't like to talk about death or people that they've lost, but I do, because I think it is one way of keeping that memory of the good memories and of the love going. I wear my husband's watch, I wear his shirts. I don't know, for me it's a sense of continuity that I haven't lost. In fact, I have gained everything because I was born into that family and because that man was my partner, and those were the best years of my life. If you know me, you know my engineering background. I have a thing for tape measures, and this tape measure was my husband, and I just chose to put, a small picture of his, and that's next to my bedside table. So I say good morning first thing in the morning, and I say good night at night. And next to that is a bottle of oil. He had cancer, and he had chemotherapy. So I did a lot of research on essential oils, and I came up with a blend that really helps with the immunity and keeps the skin moisturized. And one day, I hope to make that viable commercially. I'm working on it, but give me a few months. But that is how I plan to keep his memory alive, and I'm calling the product Andrew's Oil. Because of him that I've learned all these things, and in fact, during his illness, our relationship became even deeper and stronger. And the same with my mom, looking after my mom the last 7 years, when she really, when age started taking its toll on her, we've just bonded strangely, in a much, much deeper way. And it was just amazing. You know, there was also laughter, there was also a dose of reality. And the thing that I've learned from my loved ones when they passed away, you know, after a brief period of illness, if you will, a friend asked me once in London, was it expected? And my answer was, no. Even if you know they're quite ill, you never really expect to lose them. And although some think that when loved ones develop a disease, it's to kind of help us cope and prepare, I wasn't prepared. I don't think we are ever prepared. And it's just really horrible when it happens. But for me, it was really horrible because, you know, that love doesn't really stop. And I felt it and I didn't know what to do with it. And then I've learned to channel it, to redirect it, and to love the people that he loved, or my mom loved, or my father loved, or my brother loved, or my cousins loved. I don't know, guys, if you know, especially my new followers, I have an online magazine called psmagazine.com. And I've shared what I went through, and I called it the Summer of Grieving, because this contemplation of what is it that I'm grieving and how it helped me to figure out how do I build my life. So please check it out when you can. There's lots of articles that can help you through whatever process you're going through. There's a very good book that I'll mention in a moment, but you know, rebuilding your life is so important. So grieve, understand that death starts really big, quite dramatic, but things do get smaller with time. And then there will be a point where you have to rebuild your life. So how do you do that? How do you connect with your true, how do you do that? Well, I do that by connecting with my true nature. We spoke about that in the previous coffee break. What is our true nature? Our true nature is that consciousness, that intelligence that goes back to the creator, that goes beyond time and physical reality. And your nature is your body, your emotions, your mind, and your actions. In a way, we're all the same, but what makes it different is how we process the experiences that we go through. So my point is, don't take it personally. And in a nutshell, how do you rebuild your life? Really, by doing what you love. For me, the gardening really helped. I learned a lot from nature simply by observing pets, animals, birds, behavior, and sitting in the garden have helped me really see, when I was grieving, how nature renews itself, how nature takes away what doesn't work, how death is part of nature, part of living. And it was just amazing that I got this epiphany that helped me cope with my grieving just simply by sitting in the garden and looking at what was happening in nature. This is the great book, Preparing for Death, and it's written by this Tibetan philosopher, spiritual person called Gelek Rinpoche. It's an amazing book that I caught my husband reading a few years before he actually passed away, and I thought, what a strange thing to read, how to prepare for your death. And I read the book, and it's fantastically. I reviewed it in my magazine. If you want the link, just look at book reviews in psmagazine.com. But it is amazing because I think if we face our not fragile only nature, but impermanent nature, if we understand that, then we really understand the value of life and how important it is to stay in alignment, so that we can really have the best life that we can have. But this is a great quote because he says suffering is created by our negative emotional habits, and this is what blocks our freedom. And I've seen many times, I've helped a woman in hospital deal with the passing away of her daughter. Her daughter was in the room opposite my husband. And I tried to tell her that, and I tried to tell her, gather all the family at home. There's no point in all of you sitting in the waiting room because the children will be traumatized, things like that. Have the big lunch on Friday. Let the girls, her daughter's daughter, her grandchildren, get used to that, mommy might not come back, and so on, which she was really grateful for. And I felt grateful that she allowed me to share how I've shared my grieving and how I've shared my life with her. So he says in this book, this is the journey of how he coped with the death of his father. So I think the point of the journey is to make us more resilient, to make us more strong, and death is part of life, and hopefully you'll find a gift in it, no matter how traumatic it is. Personally, I felt very disconnected when I was grieving. As I said, life changes rather suddenly, 180 degrees overnight, and you feel disoriented, and you feel, where do I belong now? Which family am I part of? What is my identity? I'm no longer a daughter, I'm no longer a sister to my brother, I'm no longer a wife to my husband, that kind of thing. And that really took me a while to get adjusted, to get oriented, but answering those very questions are the thing that have helped me rebuild my life. And one of my cousins is a neurosurgeon, and I remember one day he walked in and he said, "How do you feel?" And I said, "Oh, I'm about to have a nervous breakdown." And he took it seriously and he said, "Don't." And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "The brain has certain elasticity. If you go beyond the limit, literally, your brain will never come back to what it was." And that really stopped me. So remember the alignment. As you rebuild your life, maintain your alignment. So there's the body, the emotions, yes, get them out. There is also your mind. It depends what your belief system is about death. So it is a good idea to explore life, death within your religious belief, within what you feel, to familiarize yourself. I think facing it can only help us evaluate or value life even more. I spoke to a few cousins of mine tonight regarding the news that I received this morning about my cousin. And and we both said how important it is to really make more of an effort to stay connected and to keep this beautiful relationship that we have with each other going. Never mind like, I have children, I'm busy, I have that, I'm busy. It doesn't really help to do that when you come to a point where you feel I need support and I need my family around me. But it's not all bad, it's not all sad, because I have a very, very special guest coming up, because I know you are all worried about life and life post-COVID and how we're going to build our lives. And I feel really, really wonderful and blessed and privileged to have the Green Sheikh. He's known as the Green Sheikh lovingly because he cares about the environment, about the planet and everything in it, and about inspiring people. We have been in touch for a few months. I follow him. I've attended all his webinars and live broadcasts because I was truly impressed. He's a member of the ruling family of Ajban, but he dedicates all his time to inspiring people, to especially the youth, to broaden up their horizons, allowing them to experience new things, develop new hobbies, connect to the planet so that they can value their life and what it means. And in the last week, I was, asking all my followers, what would you like to talk about? And the Sheikh proposed, why don't you talk about reality? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, because reality could be relative. And he said, well, most of us don't realize that we have option in life and we can create a beautiful life. So I don't know, we kept chatting and I said, well, Bu'amar, why don't you be my guest and we talk about it live? So he has agreed and we're both looking forward to this. And there's going to be enough time to take questions from you. So if you haven't heard of the Green Sheikh before, please look him up. Look at my posts and my stories, and you will find more information about him. And if you've got any questions, then I hope we can answer it. And it's going to be on Monday, the 22nd in the evening. And he called it Hot Chocolate with the Green Sheikh because it's later in the evening after he finishes his prayers. And we're going to talk about how to master living your life post-COVID. So guys, be ready, have your hot chocolate ready. Send me pictures while you're watching the live coffee break on the 22nd, on Monday the 22nd. It's going to be at a later time, but I'll remind you, and let's be inspired by how we can rebuild our lives after any trauma, drama, but specifically we're going to talk about how do we get used to the new norm and how we get on with our lives post-COVID. Thank you very much for being with me tonight. I appreciate all the hearts that you have been sending. And I will see you on Friday when we have coffee break in Arabic. If there is anything else you'd like me to talk about, please do. and stay well, stay safe, and see you on Friday. Good night. Have a good evening.